Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. It's kind of terrifying. But in some good news for Canada anyway. First story. Australia's biggest defense export was meant to go to the United States first, but Canada snuck past Donald Trump. So, Australia developed this really cool radar technology that, like, bounces the radar signal off of the ionosphere in order to, like, get past the horizon. So it's got a range of something like 3,000 miles. Which, this is on ABC, so they gave it in miles. I don't know what that is in real units, but...
It's a little, like, 2.2 or 2.3 kilometers per mile.
I was just going to, like, round to in between 5,000 and 6,000 kilometers if I had to guess. But yeah, so they bounce it off the ionosphere to get a further signal. It's been around for something like 30 years, but from what I'm gathering from this article, Australia is the only country that has it so far. Like, they've kept it to themselves. And they were in the process of selling it to the United States. They were going to deploy it on the West Coast because it can actually see...
1.6, not 2.2, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I know 60 miles an hour is 100 kilometers an hour, so 60 miles is 100 kilometers. So it's roughly double, a little bit more than double. But yeah, so their radar system, if set up on the West Coast, would see all the way to China. So they could monitor the entire Pacific Ocean.
They were like, yeah, that's not going to the U.S. Not now.
Yeah, no, they've been in talks to sell it to them for, from what I gathered, like several months. But then Elon showed up with his Doge nonsense, and Australia was like, I don't know about this. And then our brand new prime minister, one of his first acts as prime minister was to call up Australia and be like, hey, you know that thing you got for the States? We're a bit more stable than them at the moment. Why don't you sell it to us instead? And the Australian Prime Minister was like, yeah, sounds great.
Jesus.
So,
our country is such a joke right now. A threatening, terrible, horrible joke, but a joke nonetheless.
Yeah, and the way it's supposed to be deployed in Canada, it's ostensibly for monitoring the polar region to make sure we're not getting like an Arctic attack happening.
Mm-hmm.
But with the range of this thing, it would also monitor our southern border. So
that feels very, very useful, just in case, I don't know, Trump decided to do something. You know, I have to ask myself a very important question. Do you remember when the idea was floated around, very, very briefly, that the U.S. military wouldn't agree with whatever terrible orders Trump asked them to do? Do you remember when that was floated around a bit?
I hope that's true. Anyone who's watching this who might be in the service, remember, it is your duty to not follow illegal orders.
Yeah, I don't think anybody there actually has ever been in the military, anybody who's proposed that. Because if you're in the military...
It's very difficult.
It's very hard to tell what an unlawful order is.
Yeah.
It's very hard to tell in the middle of being given one what an unlawful order is. So it's a funny, great fantasy that all of our troops are just going to do the right thing and put down their weapons if Trump decides to go full dictator. But it's not going to happen. I'm from a military family. Trust me, the brainwashing is far stronger than you fucking think.
Yeah, and even if it is an order that is very clearly illegal, there's a very heavy peer pressure component to it. Where, like, am I going to be the guy who narcs on my unit?
Correct.
So yeah, no, I am not relying on that to save anyone. Scott D says historically Canada's biggest threat has been the US. Yeah, actually, I think y'all are the only country to ever invade us since we not since we became. Y'all are the only country to ever invade us since we invaded the natives who lived here.
Elwa Link says Millie refused to enforce cleaning the streets at one point. So, if the president says we are invading a country, that is a much easier sell, and I hate wording it this way, but that is an infinitely easier sell for any military personnel than I need you to fight these people domestically. It is an infinitely easier sell to dehumanize an enemy than it is to say fight these people from within for members of the United States military.
Mm-hmm.
Because our military training, once upon a time, we don't do this as much now, but once upon a time, our military training was based on dehumanizing the enemy to make them easier to kill. Our military training shifted with the interconnectivity of the world from dehumanize the enemy to make them easier to kill to put forth the argument that if you do not kill the enemy, they will kill your friends and family. You don't have to dehumanize the enemy if they are considered equivalent to a home invader. It is a very easy sell for any president to go, hey, by the way, this is what you're doing right now. All you have to do is have a strategist that gives a convincing enough argument for why it is needed for United States security. And we have done it before. Or we'll make up shit and do shit like when we sunk our own USS Maine. We'll just make up a reason to go. We've done it before.
Mm-hmm. Bay of Pigs, anyone?
That an oath to the Constitution against domestic enemies is completely academic.
Yeah, Dark Excalibur says, I was asking Vice Rhino if Canada's military does requests and if they could repeat that funny they did to the house that is white. So, fun fact, that regiment still exists. My mother was actually a part of the reserves in that regiment for a little while when she was younger.
Bravo Needs Bacon, thank you very much for the 25-bit, says, if the felon dares to invade Canada, I'm rooting for Canada, no dictators, no kings. Oh, me too, 110%. So, I love my country in the sense that this is my home and I want it to improve. But I do not love my country.
It would improve under Canadian government.
It would.
If you guys,
so I would be rooting for Canada.
The 11th province.
Also, just a fun thing. Just a fun thing. If Canada became the 51st state, it'd be beautiful. If Canada became the 51st state, let's pretend for a minute that happens. Do you think a Republican would ever make his way into office ever again?
Yeah, fuck no, but that's academic because it ain't never going to happen. Because what you said earlier about the enemy killing your friends and family, yeah, Canadians will fucking do that when you piss their military off. So, and I'm not saying that as a point of pride.
Look, Geneva Suggestions is a Canadian joke more than anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's. I probably said this last week. I don't remember because I had too much scotch. Yeah, no, the joke in the Canadian military is it's not a war crime the first time you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not. All you have to do is be really creative with what you're doing. If you're creative enough with the thing you do, it's not a war crime because it will likely be the first time it's happened.
Yeah. So yeah, anyway, this sale from Australia, it's actually their biggest military sale in history. And we snagged it from y'all. Because nobody trusts Orange Man.
Nor should they.